The Cathari ships dropped out of hyperspace like silver needles piercing black cloth. 12 vessels, each one beautiful in its alien way, moved toward the small blue planet that hung in the darkness of space. High Emissary Vorn stood at the front window of his flagship and looked at Earth with the same expression a teacher might give to a child's first drawing. "So this is the world of humans," he said. His voice was smooth and carried the weight of someone who had welcomed many young species into the galactic community. Small, wet, primitive. Fleet Master Rin stood beside him, his 4 arms crossed over his chest. The Cathari were tall beings with pale blue skin and large black eyes that saw more than human eyes ever could. They had ruled their section of the galaxy for 10,000 years, and they had grown comfortable in their power. "Their signals were weak," Rin said. "We almost missed them completely. They have been sending radio waves into space for less than 400 of their years. They are infants." Scholar Tila moved closer, her data pad glowing with information. She was young for a Cathari, only 300 years old, and she had studied humanity with great interest. "They call themselves humans. They fight wars among themselves. They damage their own planet. They are emotional and unpredictable." Vorn made a sound that was the Cathari version of a laugh. "Perfect. Another species that needs our guidance. Prepare the Standard Integration Treaty. We will offer them protection, and in return, they will give us access to their resources and follow our laws." None of them noticed the tiny satellite watching them from 1,000,000 kilometers away. Deep beneath the surface of Earth's moon, Admiral Han-T sat in a command center that officially did not exist. The walls were covered with screens showing every angle of the approaching alien fleet. Officers moved quietly between stations, their faces calm but their eyes sharp. 12 ships confirmed," Lieutenant Wu Di reported. He was a young man with quick hands and quicker thoughts. "Weapons are powered down. They are coming in slow. They think this is going to be easy." Admiral Han-T was an old soldier. His hair had turned gray from years of carrying secrets that would have broken weaker men. 40 years ago, when he was just a captain, humanity had first detected the Cathari signals. They had listened, they had learned, and they had prepared. "Let them think what they want," Han-T said. "Where is Dr. Kim?" "Already on the orbital station, sir. She is ready to play her part." The Admiral nodded slowly. The game was beginning. The Earth orbital station looked exactly as the Cathari expected. It was old. It was small. Some of the lights flickered in ways that suggested poor maintenance. Dr. Hana Kim had designed it this way on purpose. She stood at the docking port in simple clothes, her face wearing an expression of nervous wonder that she had practiced in the mirror for weeks. The Cathari shuttle connected with a gentle thump. The doors opened, and High Emissary Vorn stepped through with the confidence of someone who owned every room he entered. Behind him came Scholar Tila and 4 guards who looked bored already. "Welcome to Earth," Dr. Hana Kim said in careful, broken Cathari. She had made sure to pronounce several words incorrectly. "We are very happy to meet you." Vorn smiled at her the way someone might smile at a pet that had learned a new trick. "Your attempt at our language is appreciated, but please speak your own tongue. We have translators." Hana Kim bowed her head and pretended to be relieved. "Thank you. This is a great day for humanity. We never dreamed that intelligent life existed beyond our world." This was a lie. Humanity had known about the Cathari for 4 decades. They had stolen their technology, studied their language, and mapped every weakness in their society. But Vorn did not need to know this. Not yet. Scholar Tila walked around the station, recording everything with her data pad. She noted the outdated computers, the simple weapons carried by the human guards, the way the humans looked at them with wide eyes full of fear and amazement. "Fascinating," she said. "They have only recently developed faster-than-light travel. Their ships can barely reach the edge of their own solar system." She did not know that the information she was recording had been carefully prepared for her to find. Captain Unipark watched everything through hidden cameras on the bridge of the Eternal Dawn. Her ship floated in the shadow of Jupiter, invisible to Cathari sensors. Around her, 399 other warships waited in silence. The largest of them were bigger than anything the Cathari had ever built. The smallest were faster than anything in the galaxy. "They are buying it," she said into her communicator. "The emissary looks very pleased with himself." Admiral Han T's voice came back through her earpiece. "Good, keep the fleet hidden. Let them feel comfortable. The longer they underestimate us, the stronger our position becomes." Unipark was not a patient person. She had commanded the Eternal Dawn through 3 secret wars against species that the galaxy had never known about. She had watched friends die and had killed enemies that would have given the Cathari nightmares. Pretending to be weak went against every instinct she had. But she understood the plan. Humanity had learned a hard truth. The galaxy was not kind to weak species. The strong took what they wanted. The weak were absorbed, conquered, or destroyed. Humanity had decided long ago that they would never be weak. But they had also decided that they would never show their strength until they had no other choice. Back on the station, the first day of negotiations began. High Emissary Vorn sat at a long table and explained the many benefits of joining the Cathari Confederacy: protection from hostile species, access to galactic trade routes, the wisdom of 10,000 years of civilization. Dr. Hana Kim nodded and smiled and asked simple questions that made the Cathari feel smart and important. She pretended not to understand complicated words. She acted amazed at technology that she had mastered years ago. And every moment she was watching, listening, and reporting everything to Admiral Han T. "They want to make us a protectorate," she transmitted during a break in the talks. "Mining rights, military oversight, cultural advisors. They want to own us without calling it ownership." The Admiral's response was calm. "Expected. Continue the performance. We need to see how far they are willing to push." Night fell on Earth, and the Cathari returned to their ships feeling very satisfied. They had found a primitive species, frightened and alone, ready to be guided into the galactic community under Cathari rule. They had no idea that beneath the surface of a dozen moons, the most powerful fleet ever built by any species was waiting for them. 3 days passed on the orbital station. 3 days of smiles and handshakes and carefully chosen words. Dr. Hana Kim had learned more about Cathari weaknesses in these 3 days than humanity's spies had discovered in 40 years. And the Cathari had learned nothing true about humanity at all. High Emissary Vorn grew more confident with each meeting. He spoke slower now, using smaller words, the way adults do when they talk to children who cannot keep up. Scholar Tila had completed her analysis and presented it to him with pride. "Their military is laughable," she said. "A few hundred ships, most of them unable to travel beyond their largest planet. Their weapons are crude. Their tactics are simple. They pose no threat to anyone." Fleet Master Rin snorted. He had grown bored of waiting in orbit. "Why do we waste time with treaties? We could take this world in a single day. Our 12 ships could destroy their entire fleet before breakfast." Vorn shook his head. "The Confederacy prefers integration over conquest. It looks better in the records, but perhaps a small demonstration is needed. These humans are taking too long to sign the treaty. They keep asking questions about the terms." "What kind of questions?" Tila asked. "They want to know why we need mining rights to their moon. They want to know why our military advisors need access to their weapon systems. They want to know why their representatives cannot vote in the Confederate Council." Vorn waved his hand as if swatting away an insect. "They do not understand that they are not equals. They are a young species being offered the protection of their elders." Rin stepped forward. "Let me show them what power looks like. A simple flyover of their major cities, Nothing harmful, just our ships passing low enough to remind them how small they are. Vorn considered this for a moment. In the past, such demonstrations had worked well on other species. Fear was a useful tool for speeding up negotiations. Very well, but no weapons fire. We want to frighten them, not destroy them. Nobody asked for permission from the humans. Nobody warned them that Cathari warships were about to fly over their cities. The Cathari did not believe they needed to ask permission from anyone. In her hidden room on the orbital station, Dr. Hana Kim received the alert from Earth's surface. Cathari ships were descending into the atmosphere. 4 vessels were heading toward Seoul, 3 toward Tokyo, 2 toward Beijing. The others were spreading across Europe and the Americas. Her fingers flew across her communicator. "Admiral, we have a problem. They are entering atmosphere. Multiple cities are being targeted." Admiral Han Ti's voice was ice. "Weapons status." Lieutenant Wu Di answered from the lunar base. "Their weapons are powering up. Not firing positions, but definitely active. This could be a show of force or the beginning of an attack. We cannot tell the difference from here." On the streets of Seoul, people looked up and saw the impossible. Huge silver ships blocked out the sun. They moved slowly, their shadows covering entire neighborhoods. The sound they made was deep and terrible, like thunder that would not stop. People ran. They screamed. They called emergency numbers that could not help them. Millions of humans looked up at the sky and felt true fear for the first time in generations. They did not know that their government had prepared for this moment for 40 years. They only knew that aliens were above their homes, and nobody had told them they were coming. Scholar Tila watched the panic from her ship's cameras. "Look at them run," she said. "Like insects when you lift a rock, they know they are helpless." Fleet Master Rin smiled. "This will speed up the negotiations. Nothing makes a species cooperative like understanding their place in the universe." But Rin was wrong. He did not understand humans at all. In the Lunar Command Center, Admiral Han Ti watched the same scenes with very different eyes. He saw his people frightened. He saw children crying in the streets. He saw the Cathari treating humanity like animals to be herded, and something cold and hard settled in his chest. "Sir," Lieutenant Wu Di said carefully, "our protocols classify powered weapons over population centers as hostile action. If we follow our own rules, we should respond." The Admiral said nothing for a long moment. He had prepared for this possibility. He had run simulations and made plans and hoped he would never need them. But the Cathari had made their choice. They had decided to use fear instead of respect. "Contact Captain Una Park," he said finally. "Tell her to prepare the Vanguard fleet, and get me a direct line to Dr. Kim." On the orbital station, Hana Kim received the coded message. Her face did not change, but her heart began to beat faster. The game was about to end. High Emissary Vorn entered the negotiation room looking very pleased with himself. "I trust you saw our ships visiting your cities," he said. "A small demonstration of Cathari capability. I hope it helps you understand the benefits of quick cooperation." Dr. Hana Kim looked at him with eyes that were no longer pretending to be innocent. "I saw. So did Admiral Han Ti, and so did the Joint Chiefs of the United Earth Government." Something in her voice made Vorn pause. There was no fear there, no nervousness. For the first time he noticed that she was sitting straighter, speaking clearer. The broken Cathari accent she had used before was gone. "What are you saying?" he asked. "I am saying that you just flew armed warships over civilian populations without permission. I am saying that your weapons were hot over cities containing 3 billion people. And I am saying that you have made a very serious mistake." Vorn laughed, but it sounded uncertain. "Mistake? We are the Cathari Confederacy. We do not make mistakes when dealing with species like yours." "Species like ours," Hana Kim repeated slowly. She stood up and walked to the window that looked out into space. Tell me, High Emissary, when you first detected our radio signals, what did you think? We thought what everyone thinks. Another young species learning to crawl among the stars. Another world ready to be guided. And it never occurred to you to wonder why our signals suddenly became so easy to find. Why our technology seemed so simple. Why we seemed so eager to welcome you. Vorn's black eyes narrowed. Behind him, Scholar Tila was suddenly checking her data pad with frantic movements. Something was wrong with her readings. Something was very wrong. What is happening? Vorn demanded. Dr. Hana Kim smiled, and it was not a kind smile. It was the smile of someone who had been holding back for too long and was finally allowed to speak the truth. You wanted to know humanity's place in the universe, High Emissary. Allow me to show you. She pressed a button on her wrist. In the space behind Jupiter's moons, 400 warships powered up their engines. Their hulls were black and scarred from battles the Cathari had never heard about. Their weapons were things that should not have existed according to Cathari science. And at the front of the formation, the eternal dawn began to move. Captain Una Park stood on her bridge and gave the order she had waited 5 years to give. All ships, this is the flagship. Deploy the vanguard. Show them who we really are. The darkness of space began to fill with lights as the greatest fleet in galactic history revealed itself to the universe. And on the orbital station, High Emissary Vorn felt something he had not felt in 300 years. Fear. Fleet Master Rin was the first to see them. He was on the bridge of his warship, still smiling about the successful show of force over Earth cities, when his sensor officer made a sound that Cathari only make when something impossible happens. Fleet Master, you need to see this. The main screen changed from a view of Earth to a view of deep space. At first, Rin did not understand what he was looking at. There were too many lights, too many shapes moving out of the darkness. His mind could not accept what his eyes were showing him. What am I looking at? He asked. Ships, sir. Human ships, 400 of them. No, wait. The sensor officer's voice broke. More are appearing. We are now counting 412. Sir, they are bigger than anything in the Confederate fleet. Rin grabbed the edge of his command chair. That is impossible. The humans have no fleet. We scanned their entire solar system. They have nothing but old transport ships and orbital stations. Sir, these ships were hidden behind Jupiter. Our long-range scans never reached that far. We did not think we needed to look. On every Cathari ship, the same scene was playing out. Officers who had never known fear were discovering it for the first time. Scholar Tila dropped her data pad. Her careful analysis of human weakness was now worthless. The human fleet moved like a single living creature. Destroyers and cruisers formed perfect formations. Carrier ships released clouds of fighters that moved faster than anything Cathari science thought possible. And at the center of it all, the dreadnoughts came forward, each one large enough to carry a small city inside its hull. Captain Una Park stood at the front of the Eternal Dawn's bridge, watching her fleet reveal itself with cold satisfaction. She had waited so long for this moment. She had lost friends in secret wars that nobody knew about. She had killed enemies that would have made the Cathari weep with terror. And all that time, she had been forced to pretend that humanity was weak. No more. Open a channel to the Cathari flagship, she ordered. Let them hear us. Channel open, Captain. Una Park's voice was calm and clear. Cathari fleet, this is Captain Una Park of the United Earth ship Eternal Dawn. You have entered our space without permission. You have flown armed vessels over our civilian populations. You have treated our people with disrespect. These actions are unacceptable. Fleet Master Rin's response was immediate and angry. This is impossible. You cannot have a fleet this size. Our intelligence said you were a primitive species. Your intelligence was wrong, very wrong. On the orbital station, High Emissary Vorn was backing away from Dr. Hana Kim as if she had suddenly become a dangerous animal. His guards moved forward, reaching for their weapons, but they stopped when the doors opened and 30 human soldiers walked in. Commander Sung-ho led them. He was a large man with scars on his hands from battles that had no names. His soldiers moved with the quiet confidence of people who had killed before and would kill again if necessary. Their weapons were pointed at the floor, but everyone in the room knew they could be raised in less than a second. "Hello, High Emissary," Commander Sung-ho said politely. "Please tell your guards not to do anything stupid. Their weapons stopped working 5 minutes ago. Our jammers are very effective." One of the Cathari guards tried to fire his weapon. Nothing happened. He tried again. Still nothing. Slowly, all 4 guards lowered their useless guns. Vorn's voice shook. "Who are you people? What have you done?" Dr. Hana Kim walked toward him. She was no longer playing a role. Her eyes were sharp and her voice carried authority. "We are humanity, High Emissary, the real humanity, not the primitive species you invented in your reports. Let me tell you who we really are." She pressed another button, and a hologram appeared in the center of the room. It showed a star map filled with markers and battle lines. 40 years ago, we detected your signals. We listened. We learned your language. We studied your technology. And we discovered something very important. The galaxy is not a safe place. Species like the Cathari build empires by making others feel small. You call it guidance. We call it control. The map zoomed in on a section of space far from Cathari territory. 20 years ago, a species called the Vrax discovered Earth. They wanted our water, our metals, and our genetic material for their experiments. They sent 50 ships. None of them returned. Vorn stared at the map. The Vrax, they disappeared 2 decades ago. Their entire civilization collapsed overnight. The Confederacy thought it was a plague. "It was not a plague, it was us." Hana Kim's voice was soft but hard as stone. "They tried to take our children for their laboratories. We responded. We found their homeworld. We ended them." The map changed again. 15 years ago, the Silent Hunters found us. They were a machine species that consumed organic life to fuel their expansion. They sent 100 ships. We captured their technology and turned it against them. Their last transmission was a warning to all machines: do not go to Earth. The map changed a third time. 5 years ago, the Bone Lords sent their death fleet to harvest humanity. They believed we would be easy prey. The hologram showed a massive battle, human ships swarming over alien vessels that looked like they were made of corpses. Their empire covered 60 star systems. It does not exist anymore. High Emissary Vorn had turned pale. His hands were shaking. "This cannot be true. We would have known. The Confederacy watches everything." "The Confederacy sees what it wants to see. You look for young species to control. You do not look for species that might be stronger than you. It never occurred to you that someone might be hiding their power on purpose." Admiral Han T's hologram appeared beside Dr. Hana Kim. He looked at Vorn with the patience of someone who had seen too much to be surprised by anything. "High Emissary, I have been a soldier for 50 years. I have fought 3 wars that your people never knew about. I have buried friends who died protecting a planet that pretended to be weak so that predators like you would underestimate us." "We are not predators," Vorn protested weakly. "You flew armed ships over our cities. You powered up weapons over our children. You demanded we sign a treaty that would make us your servants." The Admiral's voice hardened. "What would you call that behavior?" Vorn had no answer. On the bridge of the Eternal Dawn, Captain Una Park received new reports from her sensor officers. The Cathari ships had stopped moving. Their weapons were still powered, but nobody was giving orders to fire. Fleet Master Rin was frozen at his command chair, staring at the wall of humanity's ships that now surrounded his tiny fleet. "Fleet Master," Rin's first officer said carefully, "should we fight?" Rin was a warrior. He had won dozens of battles, but he was not a fool. He looked at the human fleet and understood a simple truth: if they fought, they would die, all of them, in minutes. "No," he said quietly, "we wait for orders from the High Emissary." But High Emissary Vorn was in no condition to give orders. He was standing in a room full of human soldiers, looking at a hologram that showed him exactly how wrong he had been about everything. The primitive species he had come to guide was not primitive at all. They were something far more dangerous. They were predators who had chosen to look like prey. The two fleets faced each other in the space between Earth and its moon. On one side, 12 Cathari vessels that had arrived expecting to find a primitive species ready to be controlled. On the other side, over 400 human warships that had been waiting for decades to reveal themselves. The silence stretched for long minutes. Nobody fired, nobody moved. The entire galaxy seemed to hold its breath. Fleet Master Rin paced his bridge like a caged animal. His pride burned inside him. He had never been humiliated like this. He wanted to attack, to show these humans that Cathari warriors did not back down from any enemy. "Fleet Master," Scholar Tila said through the communication channel, "I have completed my analysis of their fleet." "Tell me we can win," Rin growled. "We cannot. Their ships are more advanced than anything in the Confederacy. Their weapons use technologies we do not understand. If we attack, our fleet will be destroyed in approximately 4 minutes. 4 minutes? I may be overestimating our survival time." Rin slammed his 4 fists against his command chair. "Then what do we do? Surrender? The Cathari have never surrendered to anyone. The Cathari have never faced anyone like this." On the orbital station, High Emissary Vorn was slowly recovering from his shock. He was old enough to know when a situation had changed completely. The treaty he had brought was useless now. The assumptions he had made about humanity were wrong. Everything he thought he knew needed to be reconsidered. "What do you want?" he asked Dr. Hana Kim. His voice was tired but no longer shaking. "You have shown your strength. You have proven we underestimated you. What happens now?" Admiral Hanti answered through his hologram. "That depends on you, High Emissary. We did not reveal ourselves because we wanted a fight. We revealed ourselves because you forced our hand." "The flyover," Vorn said quietly. "The demonstration of power over your cities." "Yes, when your weapons powered up over our children, you crossed a line. We could not maintain the pretense any longer." The Admiral's face was calm, but his eyes were hard. "But we are not interested in war. We never were. We built this fleet to protect our people, not to conquer others." Vorn felt something strange. It took him a moment to recognize it as relief. "You do not wish to destroy us. We wish to be left alone. We wish to be treated as equals. We wish for the galaxy to understand that humanity will not be controlled, guided, or managed by anyone." Hanti paused. "But we also do not wish to be your enemy. The Cathari Confederacy has ruled your space for 10,000 years. You have done some good in that time. We have no desire to replace you." Commander Sung Ho stepped forward. "Show them the demonstration, Doctor." Dr. Hana Kim nodded and spoke into her communicator. "Lieutenant Wu Di, you are authorized to proceed." On the bridge of the Eternal Dawn, Lieutenant Wu Di sat at his weapons console. He had trained for this moment for years. His fingers moved across the controls with the precision of a surgeon. "Target acquired," he reported, firing. A single beam of light shot from the Eternal Dawn. It crossed the distance between the fleets in less than a heartbeat. It struck one of the Cathari vessels with perfect accuracy, hitting the exact point where the engines connected to the main hull. The Cathari ship shuddered. Its engines went dark. It began to drift slowly, powerless but undamaged otherwise. The crew inside was unharmed. "Engine core disabled," Wu Di reported. "The ship is intact, no casualties." On the Cathari flagship, Rin watched in horror. The precision of that shot was impossible. His best gunners could not have hit such a small target at that range, and yet the humans had done it casually, as if it were nothing. They could have destroyed us, Scholar Tila whispered. They chose to cripple instead of kill. Rin understood the message. The humans were showing that they could hurt the Cathari whenever they wanted. They were choosing not to. High Emissary Vorn watched the same display and felt something new. Respect. Not the false respect he gave to weaker species. Real respect, the kind you give to someone who could kill you but decides not to. You have made your point, Admiral, he said. Humanity is not what we thought, but where do we go from here? The Confederacy will not simply accept this. Our leaders will be angry. They will demand action. Then we need to give them a reason to choose peace over war, Admiral Han Ti replied. He walked through his hologram until he seemed to stand directly before Vorn. Here is what we propose. A new treaty. Not the one you brought where humanity serves the Confederacy. A treaty between equals. The Confederacy has never treated any species as equal. Then you will need to learn, because the alternative is a war you cannot win. Captain Unipark's voice came through the communication system. High Emissary, I have commanded human ships for 20 years. I have fought enemies that would make your warriors cry like children. I do not want to fight the Cathari. I want to protect my people and live in peace. But if peace is not possible, then war is. And I promise you, it will be short. Vorn closed his eyes. He thought about his career, his reputation, the 10,000 years of Cathari dominance. All of it was changing in this single moment. What would this equal treaty look like? He asked finally. Dr. Hana Kim stepped forward with a data pad. We have prepared terms. The Cathari withdraw from human space. No mining rights, no military advisors, no cultural guidance. We govern ourselves. And in return, we do not reveal what we showed you today. Your Confederacy keeps its reputation. Your people never learned that 12 ships faced 400 and survived only because we allowed it. And we open trade relations, fair trade, where both sides benefit. Vorn took the data pad and read the terms. They were harsh but not humiliating. The Confederacy would lose access to Earth's resources, but they would not lose face publicly. There is something else, he said slowly. You spoke of 3 wars, species you destroyed, enemies the galaxy never knew about. What were you protecting? Admiral Han Ti's expression softened slightly. Everyone, High Emissary, not just humanity. The Vrax would have spread through this galaxy like a disease. The silent hunters would have consumed every organic species in their path. The Bone Lords would have harvested billions of lives. We stopped them. We did not ask for thanks. We did not even want anyone to know, but we stopped them. Vorn stared at the hologram. You were protecting the galaxy, secretly, without reward. We were protecting our corner of it. The fact that it helped others was just a bonus. The High Emissary lowered his head. In his 300 years of life, he had never met a species like this, powerful enough to conquer, wise enough not to, strong enough to destroy, gentle enough to restrain themselves. I will present your terms to the Confederacy Council, he said finally. I cannot promise they will accept, but I will argue for peace. Admiral Han Ti nodded. That is all we ask. Take your time, think carefully, but remember what you saw today. Remember what we chose not to do. Vorn looked out the window at the human fleet. The ships hung in space like a promise and a warning. I will remember, he said. I do not think I will ever forget. 1 month after the standoff, High Emissary Vorn stood before the Cathari Council on their homeworld. The Great Hall was filled with the most powerful leaders of the Confederacy. They had ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years. They had never been challenged by anyone. Until now. Tell us again, the council elder demanded. His voice echoed through the chamber. You expect us to believe that a species we thought was primitive actually defeated us. We were not defeated, Elder. We were shown the truth about our own assumptions. Vorn activated the holographic display he had brought from Earth. The Council watched in silence as 400 human warships filled the chamber in miniature form. This is their vanguard fleet, not their entire navy, just the ships they chose to reveal. Vorn walked among the floating images. Each of their dreadnoughts carries weapons we do not understand. Each of their fighters moves faster than our best interceptors. And their soldiers, he paused, remembering Commander Sung Ho's scarred hands. Their soldiers have fought wars we never knew about. What wars? Another council member asked. The Vraks, the Silent Hunters, the Bone Lords. Vorn named each one slowly. The humans destroyed them all, secretly, completely. The species we thought had disappeared due to natural causes were actually removed by humanity. The council chamber erupted in noise. Some leaders were angry, some were frightened, some simply could not believe what they were hearing. The elder raised his hand for silence. Why would they hide such power? Why pretend to be weak? Because they wanted to see who we really are. Vorn looked at each council member in turn. We flew armed ships over their cities. We powered weapons above their children. We demanded they sign a treaty that would make them servants. We showed them exactly who the Cathari are when we think we are dealing with the weak. Silence fell over the chamber. They were testing us, the elder said quietly, and we failed. Yes, but they are offering us a second chance. Vorn presented the treaty that Dr. Hana Kim had given him. The council read it in silence. Equal standing, fair trade, mutual respect, no control, no guidance, no dominance. This is unacceptable, one of the younger leaders said. The Cathari do not bow to anyone. Then the Cathari will go to war against a species that has destroyed 3 civilizations in secret, a species with a fleet larger than ours, a species that has had 40 years to study our weaknesses. Vorn's voice was sharp. We will lose, all of us, in days, not years. The debate lasted for hours. Some wanted war anyway, their pride stronger than their wisdom. Others saw the truth. Humanity was not an enemy to fight, but a power to respect. In the end, the council elder spoke the final words. We will sign the treaty, not because we are afraid, but because the Cathari have always valued wisdom over foolishness. Fighting a war we cannot win is not courage, it is suicide. On Earth, Dr. Hana Kim received the news of the council's decision. She smiled for the first time in weeks. The gamble had worked. Humanity would have peace. Admiral Han Ti retired 1 month later. He had carried the weight of humanity's secret for too long. His successor was younger, but just as determined to protect Earth while avoiding unnecessary conflict. Keep the fleet hidden, he told his successor. Keep watching, keep preparing, but never start a fight, only finish them. Commander Sung Ho was given a new mission, training the first joint human-Cathari peacekeeping force. The Cathari soldiers arrived expecting to teach the humans about real warfare. They left 6 weeks later with a very different understanding. They are not cruel, one Cathari officer reported to his superiors. They do not enjoy violence, but when they fight like nothing I have ever seen. They do not stop, they do not hesitate. They protect each other with a loyalty that is almost frightening. Scholar Tila returned to her studies with new purpose. She spent years writing a revised analysis of humanity. Her final conclusion became famous throughout the Confederacy. Humans are not predators who hunger for conquest. They are guardians who would prefer to be left alone, but they will never allow themselves to be prey. They would rather die fighting than live serving. They would rather destroy an empire than bend a knee. This is not a weakness. It is their greatest strength. Dr. Hana Kim became Earth's first official ambassador to the Galactic Council. When other species met her, they often tried the same tactics the Cathari had used. Intimidation, implied threats, demands for special treatment. She simply smiled at them and said nothing. Word spread quickly. The human ambassador was not afraid of anyone. She spoke softly and carried no visible weapons. But behind her smile was the memory of 400 warships and the ghosts of 3 civilizations that had made the mistake of threatening Earth. Nobody made that mistake twice. Years passed. Humanity slowly revealed more of itself to the galaxy. They were not the monsters some feared or the weaklings others had assumed. They were simply a species that had learned a hard lesson. The universe respects strength, not kindness. Kindness could come later, once you had proven you could not be conquered. Captain Unipark remained in command of the Eternal Dawn. Her ship became a legend among the stars, the black vessel with the scarred hull that had faced down the Cathari Confederacy without firing a shot. She stood on her bridge one evening, looking out at the stars through the main window. Lieutenant Wu Di approached her with a data pad. "Captain, we have received new diplomatic requests. 3 species want to meet with humanity. They are all larger than the Cathari were." Unipark took the pad and read the messages. Each one was polite on the surface but carried hidden warnings beneath the words. These species had heard what happened with the Cathari. They were curious. Some wanted to test humanity. Others wanted to see if the stories were true. "Should I alert the Admiral?" Wu Di asked. "Should we prepare the fleet?" Unipark looked at the young officer. He was eager, ready for battle the way she had been when she was his age. But she had learned something in her years of command. War was easy, peace was hard. Any fool could start a fight. It took wisdom to avoid one. "Not yet," she said, handing back the pad. "Let them come, let them talk, let them make their choices before we show them who we are. And if they choose wrong, if they threaten our people like the Cathari did." Captain Unipark turned back to the window. The stars were cold and bright, full of dangers and wonders that humanity was only beginning to understand. The galaxy was vast, and Earth was just one small world in an endless ocean of darkness. But that small world had built something remarkable, not just a fleet, but a promise. A promise that humanity would never be conquered. A promise that they would protect their own, no matter the cost. A promise that they would be kind to those who deserved kindness and terrible to those who chose to be their enemies. "If they choose wrong," Unipark said quietly, "then they will learn the same lesson the Vraks learned, the same lesson the Silent Hunters learned, the same lesson the Bone Lords learned, the same lesson the Cathari almost learned." She smiled, and it was the smile of a guardian watching over her home. "They will learn that humanity was never prey. We were always the hunters. We just preferred to pretend otherwise." The eternal dawn moved through the stars, and the galaxy watched. Some with hope, some with fear, all with respect. Humanity had taken its place among the stars, not as servants, not as students, not as children being guided by their elders. As equals. And that was exactly how it should be.